United States. Family biographer Ferguson notes a substantial and unexplained gap in the Rothschilds' correspondence from 1854 to 1860. He says all copies of the outgoing letters written by London Rothschild Group during the Civil War period were destroyed at the orders of successive partners. Now the French and the British troops had, at the head of the Civil War, encircled the United States. The British sent 11,000 troops to Crown-controlled Canada, which had safe haven for all of the Confederate agents. Francis Napoleon III installed Austrian Habsburg family member Archduke Maximilian as his puppet emperor in Mexico, where the French troops massed at the Texas border. The 11th hour deployment of 2 Russian warships by the U.S. ally Tsar Alexander II saved the United States from a complete recolonization. That same year, the Chicago Tribune blasted Belmont. Now, August Belmont was a U.S. Rothschild agent and had a Triple Crown horse race named in his honor. And the Rothschilds, who had been buying up Confederate war bonds. President Abraham Lincoln, not aware of the 8 families, well, I think he was actually aware, but anyway, the Bank of the United States plot, he might not have known of that, countered by issuing the greenbacks, as we've said, from the U.S. Treasury. London bankers were fuming. Salmon Rothschild stated diversity and he was against Lincoln. He rejects all forms of compromise as he has the appearance of a peasant and can only tell barroom stories. Well, Lincoln was shortly after assassinated by John Wilkes Booth, and we do have a story where I go into that and the Freemason and the Jacobites, and interesting story in itself. But anyway, who was whisked away from the Fort Theater Center by members of a secret society known as the Knights of the Golden Circle. Booth's grandfather later wrote this one mad act in which she detailed Booth's contacts with a mysterious group of Europeans before the assassination. Baron Jacob Rothschild was equally flattered towards the U.S. citizens, of course. He once commented to a U.S. minister, well, the one that was a minister to Belgium, Henry Stanford, on over 500,000 Americans who died during the Civil War. When your patient is desperately sick, you try desperate measures, even to bloodletting. Salmon and Jacob were merely carrying forth a family tradition. Few generations earlier, Mayor Amschel Rothschild bragged of his investment strategy. When the streets of Paris are running in blood, I buy. And you can insert any name of any country or any city in that. Mayor Rothschild's sons were known as the Frankfurt Five. Amschel ran the family's Frankfurt Bank with his father, while Nathan ran the London operations. Youngest son Jacob set up shop in Paris, while Solomon ran the Vienna branch and Carl the branch in Naples. And yes, I do realize we're just going over stuff we said before, but in case people didn't get a chance to listen, here we are. Now, author Frederick Morton establishes by 1850 the Rothschilds were worth $10 billion. The old maxim, money begets more money, certainly here holds true. Researchers believe that the Rothschild fortune today is up past the $100 trillion mark. Warburgs, Lopes, Goldman Sachs, Schiffs, Rothschilds have intermarried into one big happy banking family. The Warburg family, which controls the Deutsche Bank and the Bank Paribas, tied up with the Rothschilds, of course, in 1814 in Hamburg, while Loeb, powerhouse Jacob Schiff, shared quarters with the Rothschilds, 1785. Schiff immigrated to America, 1865. He joined forces with Abraham Curran, who married Solomon Loeb's daughter. Loeb and Kahn married each other's sisters, and the Kahn-Loeb dynasty was consummated. Felix Warburg married Jacob Schiff's daughter. Two Goldberg daughters married two sons of the Sachs family, creating Goldman Sachs. In 1806, Nathan Rothschild married the oldest daughter of Levi Barrett Cohen, a leading financier in London. Cohen family is now in part of the club. Today, the Rothschilds control. It is a far-flung financial empire, which includes the majority of stakes in all the world's central banks. All. The Edmond de Rothschild clan owns the Bank Privé SA in Lugano, Switzerland, and the Rothschild Bank of AG of Zurich. The family of Jacob Lord Rothschild owns a powerful Rothschild Italia in Milan with connections to the Vatican Bank. So they own all the money at the Vatican, which is extensive. They are members of the very exclusive Club of the Islands, which provides capital for George Soros's Quantum Fund, NV. Quantum made a killing 1989 to 1999, destroying the currencies of Thailand, Indonesia, and Russia. Soros was a major shareholder in George W. Bush's Harkin Energy. Quantum handles $11 to $14 billion in assets, operates from the Dutch island of Curaçao, in the shadow of the massive Royal Dutch Shell ExxonMobil refineries. Curaçao was recently cited by a task force on money laundering as the major drug money laundering nation on the planet. The Club of Isles Group, which funds Quantum, is led by the Rothschilds and includes Queen Elizabeth II and her wealthy European aristocrats and black nobility. Fugitive Swiss financier and Mossad cutout Mark Rich, whose business interests were recently taken over by the Russian mafia Alpha Group, is also part of the Soros network. Rich was pardoned by President Clinton as he exited the White House. Ties to drug money, of course, are nothing new here. Rothschild & Sons was the epicenter of the BCCI scandal, but of course escaped the limelight when the warehouse full of documents conveniently burned to the ground. Around the time the Rothschild-controlled Bank of England shut down BCCI, the Rothschilds Bank of America provided the seed money to launch BCCI. Perhaps the largest repository for Rothschild wealth today is Rothschild's Continuation Holdings AG, a secretive Swiss banking holding company. by the late 1990s. Many and much of the Rothschilds' global empire were Barons Guy and Elie de Rothschild in France, and then Lord Jacob and Sir Evelyn Rothschild in Britain. Evelyn is the chairman of The Economist. If we wish to make this world a better place and to usher in a new consciousness, we must study and discuss and expose all of the sources of this global warfare, depopulation schemes, oil addiction, drug addiction, poverty, environmental degradation. The head of the serpent is definitely at least contributed to by the clan de Rothschilds. And now what they're doing is taking over everything else. Everything else. You know, there was a time, and it was one of my dad's best friends who maybe, well, I was little, guys, maybe even 40 years ago, said to my dad, "One day you will be buying water." And we laughed because it was hilarious at the time. Great ideas have always come as a result of necessity. You know, declaration of water independence right now is a necessary concept that must be made to break the deadlock here of nice everyday people hoping that their elected officials will do the right thing and just things on their behalf with regard to this environmental takeover, especially water and water management. We do not have a lack of water on this planet. But I will talk about, I guess, some essential understanding to how the world spins right now. Far too many earthlings are stumbling around, either in a complete friggin' fog, or they think they know how the world works, but are simply victims of decades of well-planned misinformation campaigns. Unfortunately, those who have come to certain realizations and have made attempts at holding meetings and protesting or taking even court actions, I still think really do not understand what is at work here. And most of all, I think they're missing who the enemies are. Every third world country reads like a textbook of international takeover and control of natural resources. Today, what we have always thought of as first world nations, and mid-world of course, are falling prey to the exact same tactics that we have always assumed were unique to third world countries. For those unsuspecting out there, you can supplement any of my talks with words from people who have been really out there on the front lines of international corruption and give accounts that are just a few of the many thousands of examples here. For example, you can go to John Perkins' book, Confessions of an Economic Hitman. Shows the story. He lived as a CIA hitman in foreign countries. His job as a highly paid professional was to cheat countries around the globe out of trillions of dollars. Their tools included fraudulent financial reports, rigged elections, payoffs, extortions, sex, and murder. His job was to convince countries from Indonesia to Panama to Africa to accept numerous loans for infrastructure development and to make sure that lucrative projects were contracted to U.S. corporations, which, when you look even deeper at them, you find out U.S. didn't own any of those corporations. Now saddled with huge debts, these countries came under the control of the United States government, but really, we're talking about the World Bank and of course other U.S.-dominated aid agencies that act like loan sharks